Hello and welcome to lesson number 1, DISC and Teamwork. These are a series of weekly e-coaching lessons to give you new thoughts, ideas and insights into understanding more about yourself, your colleagues, the way that you all interact to bring a better result by working harmoniously together and using your strengths to produce a fantastic outcome on any sort of task or project where you need to collaborate with other people. Hello, my name's Paul Puckridge. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to this short e-coaching lesson. I will be your trainer and guide, and I look forward to doing that over the coming weeks. Working together to collaborate, to combine your strengths really is the key to success, especially when you're up against the system or you're up against something massive. By itself, an ant is very small and insignificant, but when you see ants cooperate and work together, they can, literally move mountains, and we can do the same. You see, every day we interact with hundreds of people on the phone, via email, in meetings. We meet people on trains, on trams, on buses. We meet them as we're walking and even in our personal lives. So here's the thing. What if you could meet someone and within, a minute or so, you could understand how to get inside their head and learn a bit about what might be driving their communication, what might be driving the way they're thinking, how they prefer things to work and play out. Would that be helpful? It could almost be seen as some sort of psychic power, although of course we know it isn't psychic, but it's about observing someone's behavior and knowing what that means and predicting based on a person's dominant behavior how to best connect and communicate with that person most of the time. One of the secrets of success in life, and when we think about very effective people, they understand how to motivate people. They understand how to bring out the strengths in others by knowing what drives their behavior. So over the coming weeks, we're going to learn a bit more about the DISC style, some of which you learnt during your training. And I want you to consider that this is about determining and learning and understanding your team's chemistry. Right now, you may know who you'll be working with, interacting with, having meetings and other activities with. So when you come together, as you observe their behavior, as you listen, as you communicate, you will know who you've got in your team. You'll know your team members' strengths. You'll know how they might see things. And this is helpful in perhaps predicting behavior and predicting potential outcomes. It means that we know what to say, how to motivate, and what not to say, and what might demotivate in order to bring out the best result in your team with your colleagues in sake of a task or a project. A little while ago, you undertook a DISC behavioral profile, and in a moment, let me explain again what we mean by DISC and how this simple profile enables us to understand how a lot of people think and function most of the time. So what does DISC mean? Well, the D, as we'll learn in a moment, is for the word dominance. And the D is all about how you respond to problems and challenges in life and certainly at work. I is influence and how you respond to the people around you. S is steadiness and how you respond to pace and consistency. And C is compliance. It's how you respond to procedures and compliance, the way things are done. So we form the word DISC. We think of a physical disc, a shape. So when we think about dominance or dominant people, when someone is in the upper right-hand quadrant, let's take a moment and look at some of their strengths. Well, for a start, dominant people tend to be self-starters. They don't need to be told to work on a project. They come to work and they're motivated to get part of the project completed. They're direct in their communication. They won't beat around the bush. They'll always tell you what they think and how they feel. They tend to be decisive, so they make judgments very quickly. And of course, not all these judgments are correct, but they will make a judgment and a decision very quickly. They often come from a place of high ego, meaning they tend to back themselves. They don't doubt themselves and what they think, so therefore they say what they think, they support their decision, and they get on with it. They tend to be natural problem solvers, and if no one else is offering a solution, then they will think of something and work towards solving it. They're not going to wait for other people necessarily. They're also risk takers. They will be prepared to do something, even if it's risky, in order to get the job done. Have you met people? Do you have people in your team who we refer to as Ds, or dominant individuals? What about in your personal life? Do you know someone who is direct, decisive, a self-starter, wants to solve a problem and will take a risk if needed, either in their professional or their personal life? I is for influence. We describe people who are influential as enthusiastic. They usually come into work and they've always got something to say about their weekend or the movie they saw or where they went for dinner or whatever the case might be. They tend to be very trusting of people and they take people at face value. So if you say something to them, they're going to trust that you will carry through your promises. Something else that defines an influencer is they're very optimistic. In fact, as we will learn over the coming weeks, sometimes our greatest strength can also be used against us. And in the case of an influencer, when they are given a task, they will think, you know what, I can knock this over in a week because of their natural optimism. However, what they find out 5 days into the project, that this is going to take 2 weeks. They have underestimated the duration of the task. So they're very optimistic, which is a good thing, but it can also sometimes backfire. They're very persuasive. These are people who are natural communicators and motivators. Very talkative, so you won't find it boring working in a team if you have a couple of influencers. They like to talk. They're also impulsive as well. For example, you might be sitting at your desk at morning tea and one of them pipes up and says, hey, let's go downstairs for a coffee and cake. Whereas no one else had thought about that, but they had, or they made it happen. Let's order lunch and we'll get Uber to deliver it. Where did that come from? Who knows? They're very impulsive in what they do. Also, they can be emotional. They wear their hearts on their sleeves. When things are going their way, they're very happy, they're very jovial, but when things aren't going their way, they can express that very, very visually, very verbally. S is for steady. We know these people are always friendly. So whenever you meet a steady person, the first thing you notice is they put you at ease because of their natural friendliness. They're great listeners. And another indication is when you talk to a person who is high S, they tend to listen way more than they talk. Great team players. In fact, these are the natural team players. They aren't trying to stand out from anyone else. They believe that if you win, it's a team effort. It wasn't just because of them. They can be possessive, so they're very protective of their teammates. They're protective of what they're doing. As the name implies, they often don't set the world on fire when it comes to speed, unlike, say, an I or a D. But they're very consistent in what they do. And they're also pretty predictable. You're going to know what they're going to work like day to day. It doesn't change very much, unlike an influencer who sometimes can change their pace depending on how they feel. Also, they are very understanding. And if you say that the reason you were late today was because you had to look after your dog who was sick, they're going to understand that. And from a team leadership perspective, that's actually a nice thing to have an understanding leader. But like I said earlier, sometimes our greatest strengths can also be used against us at times. Finally, the compliant individual. These people are very naturally accurate. They're naturally analytical. They are conscientious, meaning they really think about what they're doing and how it impacts other people or the organization or the client. They're careful. They will never do something just because they can. They prefer to make decisions based on facts and certainly never a gut feeling. They're precise in the way they approach something. And of all the 4 styles, they have the highest work standards. And that is a strength, but it can also be a weakness. For example, if they're writing a report, they will edit and proof and choose the right word. And it might take them 3 hours so that when they send it, they know it's as good as it can be. And they do tend to be perfectionists, which is a good thing, but also there can be a downside depending on what the task is. Finally, we know that compliant people like to have systems to work with. So on a project, providing there is a methodology, a system to follow, they're going to be happy campers. If it's all chaos, then that really stresses them out. They find it very hard working in a team where there are no protocols. When we look at our behavioral profile, we have 2 styles, adapted and natural. Now, the adaptive style is how we think about the way we need to work. In other words, it's what we do in order to get things done at work right now. Our natural style is what we like at home when we're not put under stress and pressure. So the D is all about how we approach problems and tasks, and the higher we score in that column, the more we tend to want to produce a result. The I is how we approach people, how friendly and interactive we are around others, how much we like working with other people. So in this case, a high I indicates a person who loves to be around people, and a low I indicates a person who finds being around people can be very stressful. S is pace. So when you have a high S, it means you need a steady pace. You need consistency. A low S means you can certainly work with ambiguity. And finally, C is procedure. The higher the C means you must work in an environment where there is processes, procedures, and methodologies, whereas a low C indicates your ability to work with no processes. And of course, that applies in your natural style as well. Usually, we look at the 2 highest bars, and that is your dominant and subdominant style. So in this example here on the screen, we have a person we would describe as an ID, influencer dominant. This is a person who is very interactive, very talkative, likes to be around people, interact with people, work with people, but also has a high D, meaning that at work, this person is quite forceful in their opinions. And if this person isn't a team leader or a supervisor, watch out, because this person does have a lot of opinions. This person is very quick to work and tries to get things done, and is also very forceful with sharing their opinions. And so if this person is led by someone who's not like that, then he or she may cause potentially challenges or problems because they're going to speak out. They're going to have opinions. And that's often why in organizations we promote people like this, because they are very people-focused, but they're also very assertive as well. So here's an example of someone at work who has a high I, but also in their personal life, they have a high I too. But you'll notice that at work, this person's D is quite a bit higher than at home. What does this mean? Well, if I'm interpreting this, what this tells me is at work, this person needs to be more task-focused. This person needs to make sure that work gets done. And that's why I'm thinking he or she is probably in a supervisory or management role. Whereas at home, if we look at what he's like at home, he's more laid back at home. He is naturally a people person, likes, being around people and having lots of friends and going out and, having lots of hobbies and interactions, which is similar at work. But the difference is at home, he's way more laid back. At work, more task focused. Also at work, we can see that there's a high S as well. And what this means is that there's also that need, in addition to being very dominant, there's also this need for a consistent approach to work. So he's probably learnt that in addition to focusing on the result, he's trying, or she's trying, to ensure that the people they work with chip away at a project or task. The lowest bar on this screen is the C, and this tells us that they are least inclined to want to work with processes and systems. And that's probably going to be an area that they may struggle with naturally. Therefore, they need to have in their team someone who is a high C to help them with processes, procedures, and protocols. Well, thank you for watching this. That's the end of today's e-coaching lesson. Look forward in a week's time to provide you a new one. Until then, enjoy every success.